Cortisol, as you probably already know, is called the stress hormone, and if you get too much of it, it could, I guess, kill you. Well, you got to have cortisol. Wait a minute, what am I talking about? Cortisol? This is not a healthcare video. We're talking about autism, and specifically the reason people like us, the reason people love people who are autistic. Well, number one, and I think I came up with 13 things. We're not going to talk about all these because the video would be an hour long, but number one is we are not draining. We are not draining. We don't drain people. We don't wear them out, is what I'm saying. And that's why I'm talking about cortisol, the stress hormone. Now stop and think about this. In all of nature, or if you want, all of God's animal kingdom, whichever side you want to take on it, but in all of nature, how many animals do you know get stressed out just sitting around? I can't think of one, but people, you put people in a car, in traffic, and they're just stopped, they're stressed out. It seems like we're the only creatures who can get stressed out doing nothing. And we spend all day, many of us, getting stressed out. And it just drains us. People go to work and they're drained because of the pressures of work and the way the people treat them. And by the way, you understand this perfectly if you've ever worked in any kind of service, any kind of, say, retail sales maybe, or banking, where you have to deal with people. And one thing you have learned, if people are upset, they're going to let you know about it. And that's draining. And the positive thing that people love about those of us who are autistic is we tend to be very calming. We're not draining. So you're working this customer service job and everybody's coming in and complaining and nobody's coming in complimenting. They just don't do that. I mean, they could have a wonderful experience at the bank, at the retail store, wherever you happen to be working, and they won't say anything about it. You know, they're not going to post a compliment online about how great it was. I mean, sometimes they do, but very seldom. More often, they're going to tell you that they are upset, and that's just the way humans are. We are very loud about things that bother us and very quiet about things that don't bother us. Now stop and think about that for just a second, because when I was putting together my thoughts for this video, I was thinking, you know, there are some people who like me, even though I'm autistic, and I wonder why. And why is it when we talk about autism that we are so focused on the negative part of it? We beat ourselves down. You know, we're supposed to be calming and not draining, but sometimes we drain ourselves pointlessly, and it's for that reason. It is because people tend to be critical. They're loudest when they're upset. Okay, so are critics, the people that don't like us. They're the people who let us know, either verbally to our face or just in their actions, they don't like us, and they're very loud about it. Now follow me on this. The people who do like us don't say anything. They're very calm, very passive. They're not vociferous. They're not very vocal about the fact that they like us. And so we tend to listen to the people who are loud, the people who don't like us. Those are the ones we listen to, and the ones who do like us, we hardly pay attention. But as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, okay, we got to stop talking about the negatives and focus on the things that, just to be balanced, we got to think about the positive side of autism. And I started, coming up with things and doing research on the internet. And I thought this is going to be a very short video because, how many things can there possibly be that people love about us? And I came up with 13 things, and then I had to stop. And no, we're not going to talk about 13 things because this video would be an hour long or maybe longer. So maybe I'll break it into two parts, but today we're going to talk about 7 things people love about autism. And if the video gets a good response, then I'll do another one, and we'll talk about 6 more things that people love about those of us who are autistic. But number one is just that. We are not draining. Now listen to this. I found this at healthline.com, and I was researching why it is that people get exhausted, why it is what it is that wear people out, wear them thin. And what I discovered as I was doing the research is there's two different kinds of exhaustion. One is mental and the other is emotional. Well, I read that at healthline.com, and the first thought that came to my mind, is there a difference? Is it mental and emotional basically synonymous? And the answer is no. Here's what I read. Generally speaking, mental trends tend to refer to cognitive skills like thinking, memory, decision-making, and problem-solving. Okay, what is emotional? The story says, or the article says, emotional, on the other hand, has to do with feelings, including your ability to identify, process, and express them. So maybe we're not good at expressing our feelings, and maybe that's a positive. Because people go through the day listening to other people express their feelings, and it's always negative. Sometimes what people need is quiet. I heard a parent one time talking about his kids, and he said, they were fighting and they were blaming each other for what the other one was doing, each other was doing, and just stressing out the parent. And this was the dad. And his response was, I don't care about justice, I just want quiet. And he was being funny, but that's the point that we're making, is sometimes people love to be around other people who just don't drain them, who aren't critical, who aren't tearing them down all the time. Now, having said that, I know there are some people with Asperger syndrome who so-called spurge out. They have meltdowns. Yeah, that can be draining. So now we're not perfect. But we do tend to be quiet, calm, and literally, mentally, and emotionally collected. We get our thoughts together. Literally, thoughts collected. Literally, emotions collected, and that's one of the reasons people love us. And again, they're not vociferous about it. They're not going to come up to you and say, what I like about you is you're not draining. No, but if you do drain people, they're going to come tell you about it. Okay, number 2 is this. We are trustworthy. People love to be around people who are trustworthy. Not people who say they're trustworthy, but people who actually are trustworthy. Now, in the city that I grew up in, there was a used car lot, and it was called Honest Bob's. And even as a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, I thought to myself, that guy's not honest. I mean, if he has to tell people he's honest, to convince them that he's honest, he's probably not honest. Well, people with autism, we tend to be real, we tend to be authentic, and if there is anything that we are known for, it is being painfully honest. I mean, they have done research with little children. I'm talking about preschoolers and, first, second graders. And it's almost impossible to get these kids to lie. They've done that in research and studies. I've watched videos on it. I wish I had the presence of mind before I started talking to look that up, and I would have shown it to you. But we're trustworthy. We tend to be honest. There's something very painful about lying to people. I remember, I think I shared this in another video a year or so ago, but I remember that I went out to lunch with some guy back in 1977. For those of you who weren't born yet, that was just before 1978, just to put it in context. All right, that was the year after the bicentennial, long time ago. I was in my 20s, went out to lunch with this guy. I invited him out to lunch, and guess what? I forgot my wallet, and he had to pay for lunch, and I just kind of forgot about it. 50-some years later, I happened to see his name on the internet. He's an insurance agent, and here he is. He's older than me. I mean, he's probably in his mid-70s, maybe even in his 80s by now. And that just triggered a memory of, man, I felt bad about that. I stood the guy up, in a sense, I stiffed him for lunch. And so what I did, and he hasn't heard from me in 50 years, but that just that just drilled down on my conscience. So what I did is I went and bought some gift cards, for several restaurants in the city that we used to live in, where he still lives, and I mailed them to him. And I sent him a note explaining to him, hey, I forgot to, buy your dinner back in 1970, whatever it was, and I just wanted to, I just wanted to pay for it. And he sent me back a nice letter, and, really cool. But, what is it about us that those things just drive us crazy? I can't stand to owe people money. I just hate to do it. And I think other people with autism tend to be the same way. Yeah, again, there are exceptions to everything. But I found this at psychnet.apa.org. I think APA is the American Psychological Association. And it said this about guilt. I felt guilty because I stiffed this guy for lunch. 50 years later. And here's what it said. We demonstrate that guilt-proneness predicts trustworthiness better than a variety of other personality measures. So what he's saying is, if you are prone to guilt, feeling guilty, that is an indicator. That's a green flag that you are trustworthy. And what they're pointing out here is, do you feel guilty about things like that? That's because, well, you're trustworthy. It's because you're honest. And one of the things people love about other people is that they are honest and trustworthy. Now, they may not be honest and trustworthy, but they like people who are. Nobody likes to be scammed. Nobody likes to be ripped off. And no, again, we're not perfect, but we do tend to be honest and trustworthy. People love that about us. Number 3 is this, and this is kind of a no-brainer, and that is we are attentive, and we tend to be good listeners. Now, I know sometimes somebody is talking and talking and talking and talking, and my brain just goes away somewhere else. But usually when someone else is talking, I'm kind of glad, because that means I don't have the pressure on me to carry the conversation, because I am not a conversationalist. I can talk to a video camera all day long. I can do public speaking. Love to do public speaking. I just seem to have a knack for that. But sit me down with somebody across the dinner table, I just sit there and wait for them to talk if they want to. And people find that so strange, but I like to hear what they have to say. And people love to talk to people who will shut up and listen. I've got no problem with shutting up. Easy thing to do. Listening, sometimes I've got to work on it, but people who have autism, number one, they tend to be realistic, honest and realistic. That means they are in the here and now. You ever tried to talk to somebody who is not here, not now, sit down, have dinner with them, and the first thing they do is, their cell phone rings. What I do typically when I go eat with somebody, have dinner with somebody, meet with somebody, for whatever reason, I turn off my cell phone because I want to be focused on that person. Just a matter of common sense, a matter of courtesy. But we are focused. Distractions. And this is according to minddoc.de, which tells me it's a German website, Deutschland.de. But number 1, they said, you're in the here and now. And number 2, they said distractions don't stand a chance with you. And then number 3, they said, man, you're curious. You want to hear what this person has to say. And we are curious. We love to learn. We like to take things apart and put them back together. Learn how they work and put them back together. Personally, I'm not real good at that, but most people with autism, people with Asperger syndrome, they are natural tinkerers because they are curious. And that takes us to number 4. Let's phrase it this way. Rather than saying curious, let's say we have mysterious minds. That sounds better, right? So curious, when people are with us, there's something intriguing about people who are curious because we're kind of mysterious in a sense. So they want to check us, see what's going on inside our heads. It's kind of alluring in a sense. The There are some people, and I don't know why they do this, but there are some people who love to go, well, I can't say the word, but they love to go cave exploring, spedunkling or something like that. They love to go check out that thing that's in there. I don't have a compulsion to do that, but I do love to go out in the woods, take a walk, and see what's over the next hill, what's around the next bend. I love to explore. I like to do those things, and people like that about our minds, that we are mysterious, that we are curious. We want to know what's in there, and because we want to know what's in there, because we are, well, researching. Well, okay, here's a good example. This video, I spend a lot of time researching these principles. I spend a lot of time on the internet digging down deep. I love to do that. I love to do research. I love to study. And I think that's very typical of a lot of people who have Asperger syndrome and autism. Asperger's, as you know, being a form of autism, high-functioning autism. We love it. We absolutely love it. And people love to be around people like us. Now, again, they may not say it. The critics are talking so loud we can't hear the silence of people who really like to be around us. But number 4 is we have curious, mysterious minds. I found this at a government website, ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. What is that? National something of something of something, I suppose. But I go to that website all the time. I just don't know what it stands for. Curiousness, it is nonetheless a motivator for learning. The curiosity about us. We're motivated to learn. Influential in decision making because we know something, and crucial for healthy development. People like to be around people like that. They love us for it. Number 5 is this. Oh, by the way, before we go to number 5, let me ask you this. We don't attract everybody, that's obvious. In fact, we probably attract far fewer than most people do, and that's probably a good thing. Because some people, they're so focused on attracting other people, climbing up the tier, the hierarchy, the hive mind, that they're taking advantage of other people, and they're trying to attract other people for the wrong reason. Well, we do attract people. We just don't necessarily pay a whole lot of attention to what we're doing and the fact that we're doing it, but we do. And if you stop and think about the people that we do attract, that's probably a good thing. It's like we have a natural filter that filters out the bad guys. When you go to work and you have these people who don't like you because you're odd or different or whatever, so that's your filter working. You're getting those people out of your life. Now, sometimes you wind up being out of a job, but we have a natural filter, and we attract select people. That's a cool thing. It's kind of like the NBA draft or whatever. We attract the best, and we don't even know we're doing it. They don't even know we're doing it. They like us, and they're not even sure why, but number 5 is we exude. Are you ready for this? You may laugh at me when I say it, or shake your head in disbelief, but we exude confidence. That is a confidence in sense of self. How do you know that? Well, I know it because people think we're aloof. People think that we are conceited, that we're arrogant, that we're narcissistic, and we're not. We're just exuding confidence, and again, a lot of people don't like that, and we filter them out. Hey, 2 cheers for the filter, or however many cheers, what is that? 3 cheers, however many cheers you want to give for the filter, because we're filtering out those people who don't have enough sense to distinguish between confidence and aloofness. We don't need them in our lives. We should not even want them in our lives. Okay, psychology today is where I found this tidbit of wisdom. And this article says projecting confidence helps people gain credibility, make a strong first impression, deal with pressure. That's the very first thing we talked about. Remember the problem that people have being stressed out? We help people deal with pressure when we exude confidence. and tackle personal and professional challenges. Now, some people don't appreciate that. So, those who do are the ones we attract, and they love it. It's also, this article goes on to say, an attractive trait, as confidence helps put others at, here we go, at ease. Cortisol. Tone that down. Yeah, you need cortisol, by the way, but too much of it, it's harmful. That comes from Psychology Today. Let's do two more. And this one I really liked. We are more mind-connected than physically connected. Now, that may be one of the reasons that people with, and I don't know, I'm just kind of guessing here, but one of the reasons that people with autism have such a difficult time finding a life partner. Impulse control. Now, I got to admit, I've not always displayed wisdom when it comes to impulse controls, but particularly when I was a teenager. But we tend to think before we act. We think of consequences. And I like to use the example of a ball game. I've used this in a dozen other videos, but it's the end of the game. You're down by 1 point. Somebody throws a three-pointer at the last second, the infamous buzzer beater. And everybody jumps up and cheers, but you can tell who the autistic people are. They're just sitting there and say, oh, cool, we won the game. They're just cool. Cool-headed. They're in control of their thoughts. They don't act impulsively. They just don't. I mean, they do, but not as excessively as neurotypical people. And again, probably some of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life was when I was a teenager, and yeah, I did act impulsively. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that because I'd get myself in trouble. I found this from Michael I. Posner, of the University of Oregon, and this is a quote, and it says this. Posner defined attention broadly as involving two neural networks. Okay, one is called the orienting network. This is a part of the brain that helps us, for lack of a better synonym, orient to external stimuli in our environment. I mean, who is better than that than people with autism? External stimuli. Fireworks, can't stand them. Noise, tone it down, would you? Unless it's the Beach Boys. Okay, you turn that up. The other neural system is called the executive network. Executive function, which helps us resolve conflicts and, same caveat, execute goals. One of the key areas that assist this executive network is the anterior cingulate gyrus part of the brain. We can talk about that at some other point. Okay, one more point here that makes us attractive. And that is, this is kind of hard to explain, but it's a simple principle. So you're autistic, I assume, so you're going to figure this out easily. But, playing hard to get is not a good idea. Now, we're talking about romantic relationships or just about anything. You go to apply to a job and you act like you're really not interested because you want them to come get you. You want them to really want to get you and hire you. Well, it doesn't work that way, according to psychology. But there's another part of it. It is called in due course. Now, this is kind of the Goldilocks place, the liminal place, not the subliminal that we talked about before. And, hard to get usually wears people out. So we don't want to play hard to get. I remember when I was a teenager, I had a girlfriend who was just the most wonderful person on earth, still is. But, as I said earlier, I was impulsive when I was a teenager, and I didn't think things through like I do now. I wish I had have. But we're in a car driving her home. I think I may have told the story before, probably 10 times before. But she pulled out a letter from some guy who lived down in Alabama somewhere. And she read it to me. And he wasn't flirtatious. It was just, well, he was, but it was very benign. Why did she read that letter? I thought about it. I thought about the letter later, and I think maybe she was trying to make me jealous, But it didn't. It just made me confused. I'm autistic. I kind of got mad, but mostly I got confused. Yeah, that was the end of our relationship right then and there because, geez, I thought we were going to wind up getting married and we were going to have all these little kids and all, And we even talked about honeymooning in Hawaii. Even though I was flat broke, that probably never would have happened. But, I think this guy lived in Alabama. But that playing hard to get didn't work with me. I mean, it really hurt me. I don't know what happened to her. But I think she married some guy from Alabama. But anyhow, playing hard to get is deceptive. And being hard to get may seem to be a little bit intriguing, but then there's another thing. Just in due course. Not hard to get, but in due course. There's a difference. That's that Goldilocks area. And this is what I read from Psychology Today, different article. The point of playing hard to get is that if we force our partner to make an effort over time, it will make them want us more. But the main problem of playing hard to get is it's deceptive and manipulative, which prevents us from being who we really are. And it's frustrating. The in due course approach is more optimal because it's sincere. It invests more time so that romantic profundity can be developed. So there's a difference between playing hard to get and being in due course. And I think people with autism, it may seem like we're playing hard to get because we're hard to get. But in due course, if you work with us and befriend us and talk to us, I never could understand flirting. If a girl was flirting with me, I didn't know it. Now, there were times when later, I see it now, but I missed it then. Now I know why they're mad at me. Because they think I'm rejecting them or I rejected them. But yeah, in due course, if they just, learned to be patient with me, they would have found out that, yeah, okay, I can be interested. And again, that's one of those, it's part of that filter we have that filters out the bad guys. And so the people who are persistent, not that we're playing hard to get, but they understand that in due course, this thing's going to come together. Okay, patience. So we have this filter that filters out impatient people, it filters out people who don't understand us. It filters in people who love us. And this is something I believe that is very attractive about people with autism. Okay, if you like this video, don't forget, if it's helpful, subscribe to our YouTube channel. But if you like it, give it a thumbs up. And if I see that we have a lot of views on this one, then I'm going to go ahead and make a second follow-up part 2 with these other 6 points. And I think they're really good. But we got to keep in mind that everybody doesn't hate us. It may seem like it, as we said at the very onset, because vociferous, those people who hate us, they're loud, they're obnoxious, they want us to know how much they hate us, they're bullies, they push us, but there are people quietly who actually like us. They just don't express themselves. But it becomes obvious if we just settle down and look for it. And those people who do like you, ask yourself why. And that's what we just talked about. So give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it on social media. Your opinion counts. If you have something that you want to add to the conversation, we have a comment section down below the video. So get out your little fingers, little keyboard, and type in something, and I will read them, and I'll respond to them. Take care, and see you all next time.